Welcome back to the Wild Rose Podcast. I'm Whitney Rose.
I'm Connie Daniels, and today we are talking all things about toxic relationships. But first, we do have a big topic. We have to talk about Jen Shah. I mean, she just got sentenced, and we need to talk about our
Yeah. Well,
reaction.
I have to be careful because I am not at liberty to say too much, but yeah, it's definitely, this is someone who's been in my life for a couple years now. We all know about it. It's insane.
And we're all waiting for this day. Everyone, like the internet is blowing up over it. But so my first reaction to this, first of all, I knew the timing of when, the sentencing was going to be. And so I didn't go do my regular workout. I was on my Peloton with my phone and Twitter so I could listen to what was happening as it went down. And then it made me wonder how many people called in sick to work that day.
Oh, I'm sure.
Just to hear it live.
I personally know of a few people who booked out the full day and they were trying to be in New York. Like my friends that live in New York were trying to be there.
Oh, my.
Yeah, I'm sure that there was a lot of people calling in sick across the United States.
I think even beyond the United States. In fact, one of the Twitter accounts that I was listening to on, or like to the live updates on, the girl who I think that she kind of runs it, she was saying she's in Australia and she's like, it's 3:30 in the morning here. I'm wide awake. Like I've been waiting for this, and people from all over the place, like literally all over the world were listening in on this. So it was wild, like totally crazy. And I do have to say once, the first image I got was somebody sent me a little video of her walking into the courthouse, and I got a pit in my stomach, just like the day that that they all came in and surrounded you guys and caught her for all of this.
Well, I think because it's been so much time in between, we forget that this is really happening. Like, she's facing this, she's been going through this, and the time, it's like we knew it was coming, but it sped up all of a sudden, and it's real. Like, she's 78 months. That's 6.5 years of her life.
That's crazy. Yeah, she got sentenced for 6.5 years, and I think, does she have a chance of parole?
I don't know.
After that, I saw 5 years of supervised. Like after she gets out of prison, she has to have 5 years supervised, whatever that means.
I mean, I have been sent so many messages, DMs.
Oh,
I've had so many people calling, but out of just like respect for her and her family, I haven't really delved into it yet. I just hope that at some point in time, she chooses to take accountability and show some remorse for the victims. And I know that she has a hefty bill of restitution to pay, but because she truly hasn't shown any remorse yet, that's still just blowing my mind.
It's blowing my mind.
But check this out. So I was in New York last week. I left New York the day before her sentencing, and I was boarding the plane. I had my daughter with me. I went for Watch Weapons Live. I was getting on my airplane. It was a little bit delayed, and I think most of the U of U staff and football players were coming off the plane, coming back from the Rose Bowl.
Oh, no way.
Or whatever bowl football game they were at, that Jen was there, is the Rose Bowl. And she had posted on her Instagram that she was at the game. She posted a picture of Sharif, and I just start seeing all of these U of U like team members and staff getting off the plane, and I was like, oh my God, am I gonna run into Jen? Is Jen gonna be on my flight to New York?
Oh.
And I just started like texting and calling anyone I could think of that talks to her. And I was like fully prepared that I was gonna be sitting in first class with Jen Shah on the way to her sentencing.
Oh my, how wild would that be?
Yes, but luckily she was not on the plane. And
But
I
her probably
dodged
dropped.
a huge bullet because I don't know how she would really react to me.
Right. And it's been a minute since you've seen her because she didn't come and like she wasn't.
Yeah.
I heard she wasn't invited to the reunion, so it's probably been a minute since you filmed with her and seen her because that's the only time you'd really see her.
Yeah, I haven't really talked to her since we wrapped season 3. So thank God, though, she's not allowed to fly with the team. Mm-hmm. So I did, right before we were taking off, like before they shut the cabin door, I got reassurance that she was not going to be on that flight because she can't fly. The U of U mandated that she can't fly with the team.
Wow.
But she was on the flight after me.
Oh, no way.
Yeah, so I barely missed her.
Missed.
She flew out to New York the same day.
Odds.
Yeah, crazy. And I was thinking about people were trying to convince me to stay and try to go to the courthouse and be there. But I'm like, you know what? No, like that would be like a once in a lifetime, like crazy situation. But like, this is her life. This is like, she's dealing with this, not me. I'm not going to go make a spectacle out of it.
Right.
But people were really like, you should go. And I did think about it for a second. I'm like, can you imagine if I'm just sitting in the back of the courthouse?
I'm sure it was a packed house.
And I'm like, Your Honor,
excuse me.
Are you taking into account the Twitter dragging, the social media bullying? Are you taking into account any of this?
He's like, this is another case for another day. Wow. That is crazy. And I have a lot of kind of mixed emotions around it because obviously like my mom always told me growing up, you can choose your actions. You can't choose the consequence. And this is the consequence that unfortunately she has to deal with because she made that choice. Yeah. And now I hear something like she's trying to like pick the drug, what is this about? Like some kind of like a drug,
like the program?
Program. Yeah, program.
Yeah, I saw a lot of memes flying in about that too.
What is the drug program? Do you know what this drug?
I believe that it's if you participate in the drug program, which ultimately is rehab in prison, it usually can reduce your sentencing. So you get like up to a year docked on time. And so
what kind of drugs are we talking about here that you have to be on?
I didn't know. I don't know. But I do know a lot of people try to do that because they'd rather spend that year in rehab than in prison.
Oh, I mean, I get it. You kind of reach for anything in her shoes right now. I would too. Yeah. I'd try for anything to reduce that sentence because have you seen that show? There's a show on Netflix called 60 Days In.
No.
And it's all about, it's actually some of the top, like, most high security prisons around the U.S. And these people who, I only watched a little bit of it because honestly, it was really dark and really hard to watch. But anyway, these people who are not actually like real criminals, they go in to see what it's like kind of as behind the scenes and like undercover.
Boss?
Yeah.
But undercover inmate?
Right. An undercover inmate. And they see if they can handle it. And actually, it's really scary. Once they pick them, they do an intensive extensive interview process and they see if they're mentally capable of this. I mean, obviously, if you're a real criminal, you don't have that choice. You go. But when they go in, a lot of these people are like retired military or cops or, so they've been around a lot of hard things and they think they can tough it out and they get in there and they see and go through things that you can't imagine. So just watching a little clip of that, and the reason I brought it up is because I couldn't help, but that came back up to my mind when I'm thinking, okay, 6.5 years might not seem long enough for some people because I know that they, the government, they requested 10 years. She got 6.5. But in my mind, I was thinking, oh my gosh, these people literally almost die in 60 days while they're in there or just mentally struggle so hard. So I think that's part of where my pit came from because I know her. Yeah, but
she's not going to a place like that.
The federal prison is going to be more.
She's going to federal. I know, but
I've heard it's federal prison is nicer than like, and I don't know what that looks like.
I do know that she's not going to like those hardened criminals. Like she didn't murder anyone. She didn't. Right. And I did see something about like her requesting a place in Texas. I don't know what that's about. But
I guess you'd do your research on what's the nicest prison if you knew the next 6 years of your life was going to be there.
I just hope that, I don't know. My emotions have been all over the board, especially this last 6 months, I think. No, this last year, really. Like this last year, my emotions have been all over the place with how I really feel about her and how I feel about the situation. And I read every single page of that 300-page document that came out. And after reading that, reading the victims' like letters and reading text messages exchanged between her and her colleagues, I couldn't come back from that. Mm-hmm. Like I will never view her the same after I read that, because everything about that showed me that she is actually way smarter than she leads on. Like I was really shocked just reading her vernacular. Like she's really smart and she's really savvy, and the way that they spoke about the victims in those text messages, I was just sick to my stomach. And I'm not saying that I think she deserves more or less. I think the government knows what they're doing and they're going to hold her accountable to what they see fit. Mm-hmm. And, it's one big negotiation, obviously, right? It's another big business deal. And I've just seen so much with these tweets, like the live thing that you watched on Twitter, like her just like trying to say, like, did you take into account how I'm an outstanding this, and this? And she's still like throwing social problems around like it's going to make her look good.
Right.
Or like, I don't know. Do you get what I'm like? Yeah. I'm trying to be very careful because obviously I can't dive too much into it. I hope one day I can, but I'm just like, girl, like, do you get it? Do you get that you screwed over and hurt a lot of people? Mm-hmm. And you're hurting your family. The more that you open your mouth and like talk like this, you're just hurting your family even more.
And speaking of family, I heard that her boys were there in the courthouse, and I don't know if she was.
She spoke to him. She spoke to him, to the judge. She said she like apologized to Omar.
So she apologized to her family, but not these victims. But I mean, I think she did say an apology, but I think no one's feeling it. I think that's the problem.
Yeah.
But anyway, like
it's when does she report?
So I read that it's I thought they were taking her off in handcuffs that day, but
that's only in the movies.
Yeah, I guess so.
Or unless they're hardened criminals. Like if they're hardened criminals, meaning like they took someone's life or like things like that, I think they are locked up right away.
Yeah, the minute they're sentenced.
Like during their trial too.
Yeah, it's so wild. Yeah.
I mean, according to Inventing Anna, this is Inventing Anna. Did you see that?
Oh yeah. Yes, I did.
That's what I'm basing my, legal knowledge off
of. Take them off. But right then. Yeah, it said February 17th she has to report to prison. And I have to read this. It's so funny. Now all the memes are starting, and this is where
I know the memes.
Where we can take, like, I don't know, you have to have a little bit of lightheartedness through something so heavy, because it's I don't know, it's hard to take it all in. But somebody put it, because I can't find it right now, but somebody asked if since this is Jen Shah's trip, does she get the biggest cell?
Oh, will they give her the biggest room?
Will they give her the biggest cell because it's her trip?
I'm not laughing at the fact that she's going to be in a cell, but it's just the internet goes crazy. Like that's the internet.
I know.
And when yeah.
I'm not gonna lie. I think it's funny. I can't wait to listen to all of these memes and stuff come up, because I don't know, it's entertaining to me. But I did think too, like, gosh, like everybody's on their toes waiting to hear this verdict, what her sentencing is, and then it comes out. And then I was thinking, like, yeah, this is her real life. And besides her family and the victims, eventually, pretty soon here, we're all going to kind of go on with our lives. They're not in the same way. And it's just, I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, at what point, because I mean, she has to do the time. She committed the crime, but like you saw in some of those tweets, like she had her talent manager there, like, and the judge was like, "Are you intending on making money off of this situation? Like that would be really bad, And it's like yeah, that's a bad look. And I kind of gasped when I read that. But at the same time, I'm like, she has to pay for her family still. And she has $6 million in restitution.
Yeah.
And I don't know, like she did say in the tweet that she's still a part of the cast.
She did say that.
I don't have any knowledge on any of that, so I don't really know what's going on. There's been no official anything announced for season 4, but like, yeah, she might go away for everyone else, but what if she still is around for me?
Yeah. Oh, can you imagine? I don't even know what that looks like. Are they going to make you go visit her in prison?
Pray to God she does not have access to social media in prison.
Yeah.
Like she needs to really like take that time and get right.
Figure her life out. Figure her head out. On Twitter, this inner city press, they were typing out as, you know, the live sentencing was going on, and the Judge Stein, I believe it's Judge Stein.
Yeah.
He was asking her, how will you raise the $6 million in restitution? And she said, my manager's here. We're working on things. So that's why she brought him. And then the judge was like, well, while you're in prison, and she says yes. And then he asks, you're still in the cast? And she says yes. So he was just, I think the judge was maybe a little thrown off by that too. Like, okay, so what? She's going to like make merchandise and sell. Like I heard some of these people talking on Twitter like, oh, well now we feel like we have to buy this merchandise because this money is going to go back to these victims, because I don't know how else she's going to make this money to give back. But then again,
she's still conning. Like that's still a con.
Yeah.
That's still a manipulation, and that's still manipulating people into buying her services and products.
Yeah.
Because now she's going to do it off of the coattails of have sympathy for these victims, so buy the shirt.
Yeah, right. Yep.
That's so fucked up.
Yeah. I know. It's crazy. But the whole thing is, and
I can't wait to learn more about like this Kosovo, like these foreign bank accounts. Because like clearly there has to be money somewhere, but the government can't touch it.
Oh, yeah.
Because in that 300-page document, we do know that Kosovo, and then I can't remember the other country, that she set up accounts there. And in that 300-page document, she said, we're going to do this because we can run this for a very long time.
Wow.
So I'm like, don't scam people and play their emotions to get them to buy a shirt.
Right.
Go reveal where the money is.
Yeah.
If there's any left, maybe she spent it all, but...
I saw her closet. I don't know if there's any left, but... Jeez. It's crazy.
I mean, even counterfeits are expensive.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
Apparently.
Oh my gosh.
Well, that was a lot, but it's the perfect lead into our topic today, which is toxic relationships. But I feel like we need to take a break, shake that off.
Yes.
And after the break, fluff your aura. Come on.
Woo,
detach any of that negative energy. After the break, we'll be back talking all things toxic relationships. Ooh, I feel like I could be an expert in this.
Really?
Yes.
I think everyone could relate to this in some way, shape, or form, whether it's like a personal lover or a family member.
Friends. Colleagues.
Yeah.
You know, bosses.
Bosses.
Yeah, and last week when we did a poll with the listeners, New Year's resolutions, number 1 was get out of toxic relationships and heal.
Right.
So
I think sometimes that's easier said than done. Because first of all, how do you even know if you're in a toxic relationship? How do you know?
Well, I think that the number 1 thing, and didn't we poll some like stats here, some like points?
Yeah.
But I think the number 1 thing to know that you're in a toxic relationship is 1, it doesn't feel good.
No.
If you feel like you are being put down, if you're being belittled, if you feel like you're not being understood or heard, those are some of the biggest indicators. But
yeah. I think like your gut feeling always tells you like if a relationship should feel good. And obviously like not all of the time do relationships feel great. But if there's a consistent like feeling that keeps coming up, I think that's your body. Like if you feel it in your gut, it's like your body telling you, look, this isn't right.
Yeah, one of the biggest indicators for me to like add on to that is if you walk away from a conversation or anything with a person and you don't feel good, if you feel worse than when you left, that's a big indicator that something is majorly off and this person probably doesn't have your best interest and that relationship is probably extremely toxic. Like if you find yourself having to repeat yourself over and over and over and the person just doesn't hear you, there's no like real changes being made, that's a toxic relationship.
Right. But I mean, yeah, and that being said, like it's different than just like, oh, Whitney and I are hanging out and I don't agree with what you're talking about. And I walk away leaving kind of like upset about it because I'm like, she doesn't get it. She's not hearing what I'm saying. I think that's different than like repetitive if it happens over and over and over again. And you're like, this just doesn't, it's like a consistent
that's a good point. Because it's not about like disagreeing and agreeing. It's about someone meeting you halfway. Like, for example, if I'm like, Connie, it really, really hurts my feelings when I start to talk and you talk over me. Like, can you work on that? And if you like are like, oh, whatever, like
get
talk
defensive.
louder, get defensive, if you deflect and you don't change it, like you don't pause when I'm talking or be like, oh, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to talk over you.
Right.
Like it's when that behavior is continued. And like the biggest one, do you want to pull up the list though? So we found a really good like...
We decided to Google this because I'm like, okay, what is the actual definition? So I found a definition for a toxic relationship. It says it's one that makes you feel unsupported, misunderstood, demeaned, or attacked. A relationship is toxic when your well-being is threatened in some way, emotionally, psychologically, and even physically. So that's kind of the basic definition, which I think we kind of covered some of that already, just with our own experience and our own feelings. But I think it's important to notice toxic relationships because you're not going to like ever grow when you have those kind of people in your life. They're going to hold you back from being your true self.
Because it is hard. Like when you are in a toxic relationship, often you're in that relationship with someone that you really love or someone that you have to be around, meaning like a boss or a colleague or a family member.
Right. Like so that being said, how do you go about that? I mean, it's one thing if it's a friend, like obviously maybe, you know, you love this person, but you know you need them out of your life. But when it's a boss and you like, that's kind of scary. Like, how do you pull away from that or guard yourself from that when you need your job? Well, actually, I take that back. I have had a boss like that, and it was hard to be around, but I had to just deal with that person in meetings and then go off and do my job and put that out of my mind and get into my flow of things. I had to compartmentalize very well. And ultimately, this boss wanted me to continue to work for him, and I couldn't do it. And I said goodbye to a lot of promised money for it. So I think when it comes down to it, like you'll know if you have had enough, even if it comes down to your livelihood, because you know you can find another job as hard as that can be, but it's not worth it.
If that's not an option, I think one, just recognizing the cycle. There's a cycle of toxicity, and it's usually like a big ramp up. And when they see that they're losing you, they'll like be good for a minute and get you back, and then the cycle repeats. But with a boss, I've had a really toxic boss, and for me, I had to learn how to protect my energy by holding a boundary. Like no matter how hard it was, I had to learn how to stand up for myself, and that looks like me saying, "Hey, no, I'm not comfortable with that. I'm not going to do that, but here's how I'm going to get that done. Are you okay with it?" So I had to put up a boundary and say, no, that's not okay with me, but provide a solution. So you have to realize like what the toxic thing is, or the toxic trait of like what in the situation is like really uncomfortable for you, and what can you change in that situation. So figuring out what your boundaries are and simply saying no, like, I'm not comfortable with this. You're treating me this way, or I'm not comfortable with this situation that you keep putting me in, but I can do this.
Mm-hmm.
And like, especially in reality TV, I've had to really learn how to do that, to have boundaries and say, no, I'm not comfortable with that. I'm not doing that. That does not sit with my character or my core of who I am, but I can provide you this solution to get the same result.
Yeah. Well, and I think that's hard for a lot of people. I know myself, just to even own my voice enough, like that you have to take, I mean, for me personally, I have to take baby steps. For some people, that's so easy just to be like, hey, no, don't treat me that way. I'm not going to stand for that. But then other people, it's like, I don't want to confront this person. They're, you look at them as like the superior person, but really, ultimately, I think you have to go, okay, I'm important and I need to stand up for myself, or no one will. Nobody will in your life.
Oftentimes we are our own advocate. We are our only advocate. And I think it's especially hard for women and people who grew up in a more suppressed or, an environment or a culture where they were taught to be less than.
Mm-hmm.
And, women historically, we fought very hard
Right.
for equal rights, right? And an equal seat at the table. But just growing up Mormon, I mean, we are not only Mormons, but we grew up women in the Mormon religion. And
Be Sweet. What's that Warren Jeffs movie?
Be Sweet.
Be Kind, Be Sweet. Did you watch
Is
that?
No, Be Sweet, Keep Quiet?
Not
no,
Keep
what
Quiet.
Is it? Well, that's how I interpret it.
We need to look it up. But yeah, if you haven't watched that, that's crazy, and it's true.
Oh, Keep Sweet and Obey.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah,
sounds
something
about
like
right.
that.
But yeah,
But how do you find your voice?
Yeah,
if you've never learned how to do that, I think that it took me a decade to really find my voice and stand in that power.
Right. And these toxic people in your life, I mean, they can be like the first step of learning how to do that, because you have to start somewhere.
Yeah, I think if you think that you are in a toxic relationship, I challenge you to like take a step back, like zoom out and notice the cycle.
Mm-hmm.
Just notice the behavior and the cycle of like what's happening, and you'll be able to identify where and when is the time to like put your boundary up and say, no, we're not redoing this. I'm not taking this from you anymore.
Right.
This is not healthy for me, and I'm sure it's not healthy for you.
Mm-hmm. I know on the show, for sure, you've had some toxic relationships there that you've owned your voice and had to stand up for yourself, because no one else is going to. I think we learned that.
I think I've had many toxic relationships on the show with my cast and with some of, the other people that are involved. It's like I said, it took me a while to realize that I was in a toxic friendship, 2 very, very toxic friendships. And because I loved, I'll just say their names. Like I loved Heather so much. Like I talked to her every day. I was there for her for everything. Like her father's death, anything with her girls, anything that was going on at Beauty Lab, anything in her life, I showed up for her. As simple as if she called me upset because of someone on Twitter, like I was there for her. And what I didn't realize is, aside from her selling Wild Rose Beauty at Beauty Lab, she was never there for me equally. It was always me there for her. And that is one of my toxic traits, is I pour into people who don't pour into me. And that's a toxic trait of mine, just because of the way I grew up.
Right.
And the way I was raised.
Did you know that when did you know this relationship was toxic? Because I know it kind of usually creeps up because, like you said, you love this person and but did it take it blowing up to look back and go, oh, that was actually really toxic all along and I didn't even see it?
Yes. There was a slow buildup, and Justin, to start from the beginning, Justin had reservations, and Justin told me, like, Whitney, I see a red flag. Just be careful. And
But do we listen to our husbands?
When I say no,
No.
I mean, if we do, we don't admit it. No, like a red flag in that I could get hurt here. That like I was the vulnerable one in the relationship.
Mm-hmm.
And it took it blowing up. And I think once you take a breath of fresh air, you don't realize how toxic something is until you have a friendship that is not toxic and that
Right.
you fulfill each other's needs and meet each other halfway and like enhance the vibration and frequency of the friendship.
Mm-hmm.
You don't realize how toxic something is. So yeah, after Arizona in season 3, the Arizona girls trip,
Mm-hmm.
my eyes were wide open and my heart was broken.
Yeah.
And you see me, I tried over and over. Not everything, you don't see the full picture. I tried. What people don't see is I would text Heather. She wouldn't text me back.
Do you feel like
I
you
still
tried
chased
everything?
her.
Because like we only saw like bits of it, and you only know what happened, like that wasn't filmed or was edited out. But like, do you feel like you really did give everything to try to fix that? And are you glad if you did give it all?
I gave 1,000% effort. I really did. And yeah, I don't regret it. I wish I could have seen the writing on the wall sooner. It would have saved me a lot of pain and public embarrassment
Mm-hmm.
of me chasing and being like, people didn't see it as me trying to be Heather's friend. They saw it as me dragging her, which I don't understand. I think that's Heather's game she plays and the way that she spins my words. And that's like deflecting, and that's like the toxicity of it, right? It's not, hey, you're my friend, I'm going to hear you out, let's change this. She would literally she weaponized me against me.
Mm-hmm.
Does that make sense? And that is so
Is that
toxic.
gaslighting?
That's gaslighting. The definition of that is gaslighting.
Right.
Yeah, so it's hard, and it takes a while to identify that. But sure enough, once I was on the outside of it, and I created a boundary and had that little like break from her, meaning I stopped chasing her. I stopped trying, and really had to accept the fact that she doesn't want to be my friend.
Yeah.
And that's a hard place to be. But once I was there, I could zoom out, like I said, and see the patterns. And it goes back, like, I noticed there was like a year cycle.
Mm-hmm.
And there was like another falling out that we had the year prior over something so stupid. It was like a tag on Instagram. And I saw the same thing. So I was able to identify this relationship isn't good for me.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to pause and I'm going to put up boundaries. And oftentimes the people hate it. They don't like it. They're going to resist, and they're going to try to belittle you. They may attack you. They might get defensive or deflective.
Mm-hmm.
Deflective.
What is the word?
Deflect. Yeah.
Deflect. Yeah.
Deflective. I might have just made up a new word.
Yeah.
Deflective.
I knew what you meant.
It's like the gear you wear at night on your bike.
Kind of like reflective, but deflective.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
I love to make up new words. Anyways, does that make sense, Connie?
No,
Okay.
100%.
But it's hard. It's hard to let go.
Yeah. So tell me this, because in my life, I have had some toxic people in my life, but do you feel like you have to cut these people out completely out of your life? Or do you feel like it's possible to create a boundary and still keep them in your life, but I always say like, thank you for showing me who you are. Now I will love you from afar. Like I had you close, and now I'm going to put you over here at an arm's length. I will still love you, but you showed me I can't have you that close to me. Like.
I agree with you. I think that, well, to answer your question, I think both. Like,
I guess it depends on the situation.
It depends on the situation. If there is any physical, emotional, or mental harm,
Mm-hmm.
if it's abusive, and
Yeah.
not just toxic, then I think that it absolutely warrants cutting someone out of your life.
For sure.
But if it's just toxic and it's not good for you, I think that's part of setting the healthy boundary. Knowing that you're still going to see this person, you're still going to be around them. You just love them differently.
Right.
Like you said, because I still love Heather.
Yeah.
I still hold space for Heather and bad weather. I hold space for that and I honor that and I love that. But is Heather healthy for me right now? No.
Yeah.
So
when she said, I cut you off forever, like you're done with, like you didn't necessarily do that completely back to her, but you created a different space that's a little further from your heart.
Well, she said, you lost me forever, bitch.
Oh, yeah.
And I said, no, you didn't, because she didn't. Like, the reality is we're going to see each other. We run in the same circles. We're on the same show. I'm fully capable. I just know now. I know how to navigate her. I know where she needs to be, like you said. I don't have any intention. I have no like hatred. I have no ill will towards her. I get frustrated when she's in the media saying stuff about me that I know isn't true, but I know what she's doing. I understand what she's doing, how she's coping with it.
Right.
And so for me, I'm like, oh, you're here, like you said, and it might sting a little, but it doesn't affect my day-to-day anymore. And I absolutely can be around Heather. I was just with her at reunion.
Oh, yeah. How did it feel?
Honestly, I felt so empowered.
Good.
Because I've done the work. And it validated to me that I've done the work, I've moved on, and I was able to sit across from Heather and not be affected.
I bet that felt really good.
Yeah. So, yeah. And then, I mean, there's Jen. That's a different level of toxicity.
that might be one you have to completely cut out.
Yeah, I've had to completely cut her out, not only because she's not going to be around. It has nothing to do with that. I've always told Jen, I will meet her where she's at. I will give her what she's giving me. And
what did she give you?
Well, when she's being nice to me, I'll be nice to her. But since the last time I've seen her, she's giving me straight toxicity. She's been awful. She's been attacking me on Twitter, on Instagram. She's like going out of her way to try to like bring me down. And I hope she doesn't hear this because I don't want to give away my secret weapon of fighting her. But I want everyone else to know is like someone like Jen who's just loud and is trying to draw you out for a fight. The biggest like weapon you have is silence. Don't engage.
Right.
They want you to engage. That's feeding their fire and their ego. And something that I've mastered with Jen is I don't respond. I've muted her. I scroll on. If I see comments, if people send me stuff that she's saying awful about me, I move on.
Right.
Because I know that my power is not feeding into it. And it ticks her off even more and I win.
Right.
I win for me. Not because it's a battle. It is a battle.
Yeah.
But I win because I have that boundary and I put up that wall and I say, no, I'm not engaging with you. And it pisses her off.
Is that easy or hard to do for you to just not engage at all and not?
It's like a muscle. You have to build it and train it. Yeah. And then eventually you get the muscle memory of like, oh, this I know what that is. It's going to go away in one day.
Right. Yeah. Okay. So I'm going to ask this and you don't have to answer it, but there's somebody in your family that I know that you cut off completely. And I'm just wondering how you're feeling about that, your dad.
Yeah, my father.
And you had to cut him off.
I had to cut him off because that was a level of toxicity that became harmful for me.
Yeah, that wasn't even
harm.
That wasn't even a new boundary. It was a I have to cut you out.
Yeah.
And it's your dad, and I can't even imagine how that must have felt, but you knew that was the right decision.
Well, you have to remember, I tried for 10 years to have a boundary, and he was so good that he would get through that boundary every time.
Yeah, because he knew you.
Yeah, it didn't matter how big the wall or how thick it was, he'd find a way through.
Right.
And people like that warrants cutting them out because that's unhealthy.
Right. And I think that's kind of the hard thing too. The closer you are to somebody, especially family members, your best friend, somebody you're in a relationship with, they know you so well. They know how to manipulate and get you to stay, even though you're trying to back away.
Yeah.
Or cut them out completely. And they know you. So these toxic relationships they're hard. They're hard to create a boundary, and you might have to try it over and over and over, and it may take a long time.
Especially with a family member, someone like your father. Like, I love my dad. I choose to remember all of the amazing memories, but he's not good for me.
Mm-hmm.
And he never will be. He's proven that.
Right.
And we've tried everything we can, but it just doesn't work. And it's hard, but it's okay. And I want people to know that, like, you are worth it. As hard as it is to cut someone out, and as sad as it is, and they used to play a big role in your life or help you out and get things done for you, you matter more. Your energy, your peace, and your health and happiness matter more than that relationship.
Right.
Because at the end of the day, we come into this earth alone and we leave alone, and you got to leave with peace in your heart
mm-hmm.
and happiness. Like, I hate seeing people suffer when there's a hard decision that can be made, but it can be done.
Mm-hmm. And talking about people that have suffered and watching them on like this platform that's very public, I looked up the most toxic celebrity couples. And I'm pretty sure that we all know of these different ones. So I'm just going to read them off really quickly as a reminder of what toxicity looks like in a relationship, because we've all seen this.
Yeah, I mean, Hollywood's the perfect place to look for toxicity.
For sure. Rihanna and Chris Brown. For sure, right? We all saw.
We got to protect Riri at all costs. I'm so glad she got out of that situation.
Yes. And she cut him completely off, which good for her. Selena Gomez and Justin Bieber. I didn't follow that a lot.
Okay.
So
I
do you know about
a little bit about this. And it's so funny because my glam team, we're like divided down the middle. Half of us are Hailey fans and half are Selena.
Really?
Yeah. And I will admit, we get into like heated conversations about this all the time. I just laugh because they're like doing my hair and makeup, going at it, and I'm just kind of in the middle. But I think that for Selena and Justin, that was a toxic situation. Mm-hmm. They like both amazing people. We love them both, amazing artists. But together, it just doesn't work.
Right. I mean, look at his temperament with Hailey. Like, he just seems calmer and more grounded. And I think that's at least my observation just from way afar.
Yeah. And like, I think both Justin and Selena are in such better situations now.
Yeah, for sure. Okay. Here's one of my favorite ones. Johnny Depp and Amber Heard. Okay. Did anybody out there, I want to hear from our listeners what they thought if you guys watched all of the stuff that went on in the court. Like, I don't know about you, but I was a Johnny Depp fan forever, like from the beginning. Pirates of the Caribbean. Like, I am a way bigger fan now, watching how calm he handled that whole situation. Like, I've never seen somebody handle something so calm.
That was a wild case. I had to stop following it just because I'm like, this is too much. But like,
it was a lot.
Like, just everything that would come out, like how bizarre and crazy she was to him. Like, can you imagine just punching your husband in the face?
No. Can you imagine shitting in his bed? Like, come on, Amber. Yeah. That was a dead giveaway.
Okay, you're ready.
Okay. Just two more. I have Madonna and Sean Penn. I didn't know a lot about them. Did you?
No, that was probably a little bit before our time.
And last but not least, Pamela Anderson and Tommy Lee.
Oh, my God.
Yeah. I couldn't even watch the whole documentary on them. But anyway, yeah.
Well, that one obviously had a lot going on. It was toxic on so many levels, like substances, abuse, like, you know, the fame, the aspect of fame, and they're like rising stars, right?
Right.
So that was a lot. I watched the documentary.
You did? I got like halfway through. I thought it was mainly about sex.
Are you a Pamela fan?
I loved Pamela, but I like Tommy Lee too. So it was interesting to watch them together and how I just thought it just was like a big porn. Like the show was just all them having sex all the time, which is I'm sure what their life was, their relationship was based on.
Right. And that in of itself, it doesn't matter how good the sex is. It's toxic.
Right. Like, even if the sex is good.
Yeah. You have to
you got to get out.
Yeah. You got to get out. Fun fact about Pamela, and then we can go to break.
Okay.
But my sister, I have an older sister, Kelly. She's like, I think 10 years older than me.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. Less than 10 years older than me. We share a dad. She has a different mom. We have different moms. We share a dad. She was married in the Mormon temple at 18. Okay. About 6 months after she got married, she ran away to Hollywood and wanted to become an actress. Well, she's no acting classes, but she's a big personality and she's so talented. She walked on set and got a job with Baywatch and 90210 as an extra.
Oh my gosh.
And so she would have like a few speaking parts on Baywatch, and she met Pamela. She met
oh my gosh.
Oh my God, who's the guy?
Oh,
Yeah, so she worked with Pamela and she loved Pamela.
Uh-huh.
Like she would tell us these like stories about how sweet she is. And so like we had this like public perception of this like sex porn goddess, right?
Yeah.
But Pamela was actually like a very sweet person. Anyways, fun fact about Pamela. Who was it? Because my sister dated his son, Jeremy Hasselhoff.
Hasselhoff. I know. I was literally in the middle of Googling it. I'm like, why do I?
David Hasselhoff, my sister dated his son, Jeremy Hasselhoff.
Oh, no.
I've actually met him and he gave me a ride in his car.
Oh my gosh. I love it.
I was young, but it was cool. I was like, I'm meeting a celebrity.
I'd say that's cool.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. So it runs in the family. The talent runs in the family. You just walk on set.
I guess. I mean,
it totally does.
I wasn't the one that wanted it. Both of my other sisters wanted to be actresses. And I was like,
I mean,
I'm going to business
actress,
school. I'm going to own a business.
Right.
But here I am.
Well, we have to get to break really quick. But when we come back, we are going to be talking about how do you know if maybe you are the toxic one? How do you know?
It's a good question.
And what do you do about it? So we'll be right back. Hi, everyone. Welcome back. Okay, we are talking about toxicity, toxic relationships. How do you know if you are the toxic one? Whitney, tell me this. Have you personally ever felt like you were the toxic one in a relationship? Because I have.
Well, why don't you go first?
No, I feel like I've caught myself. I think I've done enough work on myself though that I know when I'm doing it, and it typically is when I'm in like a bad place with myself and I project.
Yeah.
I project a lot. That's my first sign and it usually comes out on my sweet husband because he's the one who's there.
How do you know you're projecting?
So in the moment I don't, but when we have a conversation about why did you just come at me for all that? Like where the hell did that come from? You know, and I blow up over some tiny thing and then I stop and I think, wait, why did I blow up at that? And I have to look inward. And I do take the time to look inward and go, all right, what am I actually mad about? Because I'm not mad about that my laptop won't turn on. I'm mad because I feel fat in this outfit.
And so I'm going to take it out on Ben.
So I'm going to take it out on him. But yeah, I for sure and I mean, there's much bigger things I've caught myself doing and looking back on my relationship because we were married, we got divorced. And a lot of the things that, we had to cut that off. And I hate to admit it, but I was the toxic one. I for sure was. There was a lot of work I needed to do on myself to get to a good place where luckily we got back together. But the person who I was and who I became was very toxic in that relationship. And I think sometimes people don't know that they're the toxic one though. And then they can't ever fix it. Cause I always say, yeah, people can change. It's hard, but not everyone changes.
Well, it's that accountability factor, right? It's really hard to take accountability and admit that, you know what, I'm the one that's really messing up here.
Mm-hmm.
That's really hard to do. And I think that especially for people who haven't done the work on themselves and become self-aware, I think it's easier once you have that self-awareness and know like how you operate, what your triggers are.
Mm-hmm.
It's really hard to take accountability because you don't see it. You think everyone else is harming you or everyone else is out to get you.
Right. Way easier to point the finger than to point it inward and swallow your ego, swallow your pride. It's so hard to do. But if you ever do find yourself being this toxic person, I think that you have to go inward. But if you can't recognize it, you can't fix it.
Yeah, but how does someone recognize that? Like, how would you know that you are the toxic one and you need to take a step back and do some self-evaluation and work on yourself?
I think that you have to look at the common denominator in situations. If you're constantly having conflict with people around you, you have to step back and go, wait, I am having all this conflict. I'm all these relationships. I might be the problem.
And that's okay.
Right. Is that Taylor Swift's new song?
It's me. I'm the problem. It's me.
Yeah. Like, come on.
And that's fine. I mean,
fine.
There's a reason Taylor Swift is singing about it.
Right.
We need to normalize like taking accountability and owning who we are. It's fine.
Mm-hmm.
I think I respect someone way more who says, you know what, I messed up and I'm going to own that.
Mm-hmm.
Or actually, I'm projecting this onto you. I'm going to take a step back and work on this. Like that to me is way more respectful than like someone who just keeps pointing the finger.
Oh, for sure.
You know?
For sure. Have you ever found yourself personally being the toxic one? I'm just curious for myself because in our friendship, I don't know that I've recognized that with the two of us, but
yeah, well, we don't have a toxic friendship because we equally own our shit and we talk about it. Mm-hmm. And like when I've done something to upset you or you've done something to upset me, we call each other out on it.
Yeah.
And it's not calling out. It's just being like, hey, let's talk about this.
Yeah,
because,
help me understand this because this is how I'm feeling. And a lot of things get miscommunicated through text messages. I think with it, all the time. Especially when you don't use emojis.
Yeah. So Connie, turns out I'm a terrible texter.
You've gotten better.
I have.
But you used to be terrible, especially in a group message.
In what way? Explain.
Well, you would just be like, we'd be talking, say, oh, hey, we're going to go up to a cabin or, and everyone's talking about something that's sort of positive or asking questions. And then you'd be like, well, I don't know about this. And then no one knew if you were being sarcastic or I don't know. It's been a while because you've gotten a lot better. So I can't think of a specific example, but like.
It's so funny though, because we'd be in a group message. I'm just very direct.
Yeah.
I have texting's hard for me because I just have a million things going on and it's like overwhelming for me to spend the time to like sit and like do full paragraphs with emotion and all of the things that are required for context. Right.
Right.
So, after like so many times in a group message, I'll get a call from Ben. It's always Ben because Ben is like, I'm the Connie whisperer and Ben's the Whitney whisperer.
Yeah. And he'll confront it and I'll just back down.
He'll be like, are you okay? And I'll be like, hey, Ben, what's up? What do you mean? Am I okay? I'm having a great day. And he'll be like, you sound so pissed off in the text. Like, we just want to make sure you're okay. And I was like, what? And I'll go back and read it and I'll be like, oh, that was really direct. And then so Connie came up with this thing that I need to use emojis.
Yeah, like a winky
face. So people
face
know what my emotion is.
Yes, that's what they're for. That's why they're called emoji. Emotions through text.
Now I'm confused. What were we? In our friendship, I feel like you and I have stayed consistent in not being toxic to each other because we took the time to learn each other to understand each other. And like, even just this week, we had to talk. It wasn't like a conflict, but just talking through situations that could become conflict or, right? I think you and I are just good at like talking through it.
Yeah. You're even better than I am. I'm still learning to have my voice. But it's good to be around other people that you know, that you can learn from, that have gone through similar things, and you know, you become a product of who you are around. And
so I have two relationships that I have been the toxic one in at times. And one of them is my marriage with Justin. The same. I think every spouse at some point, if you're married,
turns.
You take turns
being the toxic one.
Just naturally, because marriage, you're together 24/7 and you commit your life to each other. And then I have another sister that, you know, we don't speak anymore. She cut me out because for her own boundary. Like, I triggered so much in her that she had to stop talking to me. And it hurt me for so long because I didn't feel like it was my fault. But now I have the emotional intelligence and the awareness, self-awareness to know that it's not about being my fault. It's about that right now she can't build that relationship with me. It's not healthy for her. Whatever is going on in her life, she needs to focus on that and not me. And I wish we could work on our relationship, but absolutely with my sister, we grew up with a lot of the same traumas. And we have completely coped and with them differently. We've coped with them differently. And our lives are just different because of the way that she's navigating it the best she knows how. I'm navigating the best I know how. And I absolutely would project fear and like unworthiness onto her. And she would do the same to me. And at different times, or sometimes at the same time. And I'm the older sister, so I tend to want to protect her, and that's not what she needed, you know? And that was hard for me to realize, like, I'm trying to protect her, but it's landing as I'm toxic for her and trying to like change her.
Yeah. Wow. That's great self-awareness, honestly, because I don't think a lot of people even process it that far.
No, it's taken me a lot of time of like therapy, spiritual healing, and just like sitting with myself and really, like you said, processing it. And I think that people don't do that enough. You don't sit and think about your day. You don't sit and think about interactions, especially like conflict. When there's conflict, I think we tend to just be like, well, I can't believe so-and-so said this and this. You're not going to believe this. That like we stick to like the surface and the like gossip of it and not dive into, well, why did that happen? Where was I at? Where were they at? And I think that doing that, you realize something toxic.
Right.
And then in my marriage, I did that a lot. I just projected a lot of my wounds onto Justin because I didn't know any better. And I'm going to give myself that grace because I didn't know any better. I only knew how to be toxic. Especially when it comes to my self-worth and like being worthy of love. I expected the worst in people, and that's something I'm working on. Yeah.
I think a lot of times we do project all of those things, and a lot of times we self-sabotage in toxic ways. So when we self-sabotage, like you said, the feelings of feeling unworthy, or, you know, that those things we do subconsciously too. And so those are hard to recognize as well.
So hard to recognize. And I think at a basic level, it sounds easy to love yourself, but it's so hard.
Yeah.
Because only we know what's in our minds.
Right.
And what's in our hearts.
It's true. I want to hear from our listeners, like their best, I don't know, like, how do you call it? Like, it feels so good when you get out of a toxic relationship. Like, I want to hear those stories that like made you a better person because of it, because you finally had the courage to either create a hard boundary or maybe change yourself, change being the toxic one. I want to hear from those people. Yeah. You know, because that, I just want to know that I'm not alone, that I'm not the only toxic.
No, you're not the only toxic one. And I'm trying to think of a really good example of like when I've been toxic. There's so many, but it's like, I'm just trying to think of something simple that's not too deep. Like one time, Justin and I got into an argument. And when I say we got into an argument, it's usually me arguing with myself and he's just in the room.
hearing it.
I mean, he doesn't really argue back or give me much, and that pisses me off even more. But I know why he does that, because he knows that most of the time it's just me being toxic and I got to work it out with myself. But one time I used to have this like mentality, well, if I can't have it, you can't have it. Like it has to be like equal, right? And I've done like just stupid stuff where I'll like go and like throw everything away or like like try to lock him out of the house.
So are you saying you might be the girl that would burn the house down?
I honestly, in a relationship before I burnt something. Okay. I was really young, but I burnt an ex-lover's stuff because I was so mad. Yeah.
Okay, I knew a girl that reminded me. I knew a girl in down in Scottsdale who she was married. They were kind of going through a tough time or whatever, but no joke, she took his clothes, threw them on the bed, lit them on fire, and walked out. Her entire house, their house burnt down. Like this kind of crazy happens.
Okay, I am not that crazy.
I can't see you doing that. Maybe some threats, maybe like,
burning a few t-shirts.
Throwing a few things outside.
Yeah. Throwing the clothes on the lawn to be dramatic, to get attention. I've
more to get attention and like, wait.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
My God, that's called seeing red, and you cannot come back from that. Like that's going into another realm.
I think she got charged for it.
Yeah, I would imagine.
Yeah, because that could have lit other houses on fire. Like, that's scary. Yeah,
that is very toxic. But I mean, just like identifying, like when I am getting into an argument with Justin or we disagree on something, like just taking a deep breath. Mm-hmm. When I feel my heart rate increasing and I start to get hot, I take a deep breath and I'm like, okay, what in this conversation is triggering me? Mm-hmm. Instead of being like, no, you did it. No, it's your fault. I can be like, well, let's talk more about this, the thing that is like getting my heart racing. And you have to like be in the moment. You have to be really present, which is hard to do when you're upset.
Yeah. I have to take breaks. Like and Ben hates it because he wants to talk through everything, talk all night. Sometimes I even have to sleep on it. But, and that's the worst for him because he's up all night. I don't do it on purpose. He thinks I do it on purpose. I don't. I'm an Aquarius like your husband. We don't do that. That's just how we process.
Are you sure it's not on purpose?
I promise
because
it's not.
I sometimes
We're not
feel
trying to
like
piss you
it is.
That's you and Ben would definitely concur on that. But no, it's not. I think that's just how we process things, and we have to have quiet space and time. Otherwise, I react, and it's not good. It's not my best self. So
I think that's why Justin just stays quiet too, even though it pisses me off even more. I think he's told me it's like for the greater good.
Yeah, he's wise. He's a wise man. He's been through some things.
Yeah. I mean, that's why you marry a man 18 years older than you.
Yes.
But I know I have a lot of, like, everyone has toxic traits, but yeah. I mean, there's been times where I completely read into situations and then like would block. This is back when Justin and I were dating. Like I would do like extreme things. Like I took his garage door openers away from him and left the house.
Well, you just like
good luck getting in your garage.
Lock him out?
Fucker.
Oh my God. I love it. So do you think some of this...
Or I'll like block people and then be like, oh, sorry, I was at the spa, but really I was like raging. I've come a long ways.
Yeah. Some of it just comes with maturity and like being in different relationships and figuring out that it's not worth the energy to be so toxic. So yeah, if you're in a toxic relationship, try to create a boundary. If that doesn't work, sometimes you just have to cut them out and don't be the toxic one. And if you are, work on it. Take a breath, take a moment, and try again.
Listen, you can always DM me and ask us, DM me or Connie, and we'll tell you if you are.
Yeah. If you were questioning if you are the
if you
toxic
trust
one,
our expert advice.
I mean, we aren't psychologists, but
No.
we are good friends.
We're good friends. And that's
And we're
the other,
honest.
that's the other thing. There is like, I mean, toxic and abusive are, different, but sometimes they do teeter a line. But I think that you can just reach out to like family members, friends, coworkers, or online. There's a lot of support systems online if you feel like you need help.
Or get
setting
a therapist
boundaries. Yeah. And like
to help you.
Yeah. Or get a therapist. If you can't afford a therapist, there are a lot of online resources. You just have to like look them up. And there's a lot of, I mean, like Connie said, like just don't be a dick this year. Like just be a nice person. Don't be a dick. And if you are being a dick, stop.
Yeah. It's that simple. We complicate too many things. This is one that we can have less complicated in our lives. So don't be a dick.
Okay. Let's say it at the same time. Ready? 1, 2, 3.
Don't be a dick.
Well, anything else you want to chat about with toxic relationships?
I feel like we covered everything. Yeah. I mean, everything that I was thinking of, I've definitely had a handful in my life that I've had to sort through. So it feels good to be on the other side of it. I'm sure I haven't had the last of toxic relationships.
Well, no, we're
so.
human beings. We're going to, I think that's just part of life. But I think the more that we can identify them, the quicker we can protect ourselves from them.
Yeah.
And protect ourselves from ourselves.
Yeah. And listen to those people that are close to you and love you. If you go back to them over and over again and tell them these things that are happening with a relationship that are upsetting to you, listen to them when they say, be done, quit doing this. You're in a cycle, get rid of that person. This happened with my sister in a relationship, and I literally wrote it all down. I'm like, listen, it's a pattern. You're going to come back in a month. Finally, after 4 years, she did end up cutting this person out of her life, but it took a long time. So sometimes it does. The quicker you can do it, the better off you will be.
Yeah. I like that. Write it down so that you can read it to yourself.
Yeah. How you are feeling in those moments, because they will typically have ways to manipulate you back into the comfortable place you were in before. Mm-hmm. But write it down and
can walk all over you.
Yep. Make notes, because most likely it will happen again. But
there you go. And remember, don't be a dick.
And we love you. So share your stories with us.
Yes. And thank you for listening and subscribing. If you like our podcast, please share it with your family and friends. We love you.
We love you. We'll see you next time.